Hello, everyone. Today is April 4th, 2024. This is the first time we're doing a sales office hours. So I wanted to give a quick overview of what our intention of these office hours are. So they're an extra thing with the AMAs, but they're a bit more focused uh, on um, like technical details. So if we're not if we're not figuring out a problem async, this is a step where we can use to investigate issues together or go through a technical discussion together a bit. And the idea is to have time slots, like 30-minute time slots for each one of them, because during the AMA, usually we just say, oh, let's take it offline. And sometimes that takes a while. So this is a way for us to talk a bit more about cells from a technical level and dive deeper into a topic. There's no real, I know no one really signed up for any slots today, but there are some questions by John. So do you want to ask the question, John?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. And this isn't really a technical question, but just was thinking it would be nice if we had an FAQ or a list of common questions that was that everyone could point to when they come up, and ideally have a bookmark on the tenant scale Slack channel for it. I think Neil, who just left, had a good idea of using the questions list on Cells 1.0. So maybe we could link to that and add more questions as they come up. And maybe also include a link to glossary as well. Maybe if not from there, then maybe a separate bookmark for that. If there is, because there is a glossary somewhere, I think. I don't know where it is, but
So when you say bookmark, you mean Slack in Slack, right? In the channel.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I can take it as an action item. So let's mark this here. Items and I'll add Slack. That makes sense. Yeah, no objections there. Do you think the questions that come in linked to make sense, or would you want something in a different format?
No, I think it makes sense. There's lots of audiences to this, so it's hard to say like obviously like that list of questions has a lot of technical details on cells. But yeah, we can start with that, see how it goes.
Yeah,
it's good.
Cool.
I think that you need to make for every condition.
Awesome. We're at the end of the agenda now. So if anyone else has anything else to add to, now's your time. Bishwa, have we figured out how the fulfillment team is going to integrate with cells? Like one problem you mentioned was the admin tokens, right? So have you figured out how that's going to work, or do we still need to work on that part?
Yeah, the second workflow. So we could, of course, we started with creating an issue firstly, and then we had some. So like I had some proposal about using shared secret authentications, and if possible, with the help of infrastructure, even making the internal endpoints private and not open to public. So those are some of the solutions. I will write it over here. Sorry, I wanted to. How do I do? Okay. Never mind. So here is the issue that I said, and also some of the discussion going on with Tong. Tong is also looking into most of the fulfillment issues, including this one, and checking through it if it's if it's needed or not based on sales 1.0 and sales 1.5. The estimation has been, or the overall estimation, like high level estimation, and the list has been done as a part of discovery. Now the only thing that remains is probably prioritizing it from our department and yeah, putting on some resources to work on it. I'll also share the estimations comment thread.
So what's the
For
current proposal? If you don't mind me asking.
current proposal for the admin token?
Yeah.
Yeah, so for the current proposal for admin token, as of now is to use a shared secret, right? As an internal endpoints, as it's an internal endpoint, so like any two microservices kind of communicating with each other, and probably the shared secret will be saved in application settings like cluster-wide, so that it's not different for each cells. And
So is that secret defined by us, or is that generated for us?
so probably we should generate it and then save it like WinRail secrets or something like that, and then save it securely between the two services, customer dot and GitLab as a whole. And also the reason was also like I think the sales 1, sale 2, sale 3 is more like an internal architecture that let's say customer dot should not worry or care about. So we just call like, hey, I'm customer dot, I want to access this resource, or I want to update this resource, and based on the authentication, the sales router will just do the thing of routing it to the correct cells and authentication
Okay.
and routing.
Okay, so it's gonna be a secret, and then I guess like just talking internals or implementation detail,
Yeah.
is that gonna be a bearer token that's fulfillment is gonna use, or like is that a JW token? How's that gonna work?
I haven't looked into that detail, but my idea would be like bearer token, like the
Okay.
straightforward bearer token. Yeah.
Okay, and then so to make sure I understand, we configure a secret inside of the Rails application. That secret is gonna be the same for all of the cells.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna, with that secret, we're gonna generate a bearer token so fulfillment can reach out. How are we
Yeah.
gonna route to each cell then? Like how are we gonna identify each cell?
So those token is just for authentication, and the routing should still be based on the path, or based on like either like path, like hey, because most of the request is for some like hey, update the namespace ID, or update the GitLab subscription, which is namespace ID. Or we are also thinking of just to solve the routing for once and all, if it's possible. I'm thinking about also getting the organization ID metadata for all the namespace ID related information that you have on CDOT. So we could send that as again as a headers or something based on how the router logic will be implemented. If it needs organization ID, then we have an issue where we will sync up organization ID with all the namespace ID resource we have in CDOT. Or
Okay.
most of
Okay.
yeah.
So in the router, we have to implement a rule where if we see a specific header about our organization ID, we need to route it to the correct cell.
So that's my assumption based on how the router logic will work. Or like most of our most of our path also consist of namespace ID, because it's all around namespace ID. So if the router logic can filter based on the namespace ID on the path, we could also do that. But yeah, we have this both issues on our estimation to see like because it's at the moment I think we're not sure, right, how the router logic would probably be implemented. We just have also like proposals here and there. So
yeah, so we're gonna have we are gonna have path-based routing for like HTTPS clones and things like that, because we need to be able to do that. So I guess we need to look at path-based routing for
Mm.
your requests, I guess, as
Yeah.
well. So, okay.
Yeah, and that's there. And also we thought like since organization ID will be like a de facto going forward, we could rather start syncing organization ID too for all the namespace side, all the resources that are namespace ID. And once you have that, we can send that as a header or something so that the request can be routed to the correct cells.
No. It could be a header or it could be part of the path as well, like the organization ID,
Okay,
right? So if
yeah.
we do it by part of the path, we can scope all the requests by the organization ID, so it would be easier to route.
Okay, yeah, we can also do that. I think we just need to refactor the existing internal endpoints. We have that, but yeah, it's just work to be done somehow. Well, after we know like what to do.
Yeah. And how does the ID syncing work from your side? How will you get the organization ID? How does it work currently?
So for us, like for example, namespace ID is usually only required for us when somebody buys, right? Somebody buys the subscription. So for that, of course, hey, I want to buy subscription for this top level namespace, then we will always call GitLab to get the number of users or like a number of billable users for the namespace and all these things. So on that, we'll be applying the fetch organization ID too. So most probably this will be there in GitLab and we'll be fetching that, right? And then at the moment, probably it's all default, but let's say like once we have the mechanism age, we start spinning out, it will be the same. Like, hey, for this namespace ID, these are the number of billable users, and this is the organization ID that it belongs to. Yeah, then that would be it. I think at the moment, once if a namespace has a subscription, the namespace cannot be moved or something like deleted, like something like that. So probably would be same like if the namespace is has a subscription, maybe it cannot be moved to another organization. I think that's what we decided with Christina when we were discussing the discovery. So like the name organization ID would not change out of out of blue like that. And yeah, and then that would be used for any further updates of, hey, cancel the subscription or update the number of seats and other subscription related calls, internal calls that we make with GitLab. And I think that should cover at least what we can vision at the moment, unless there is something different.
Yeah.
More
I guess my
complex.
question would be, so we've fetched the namespace information right now, right? If that namespace information is going to be in multiple cells, that fetch thing needs to be routed as well, right? So how are we gonna? I guess we'll have to route it by.
Sorry, I don't get it. I don't
So
get.
what you said, when someone signs up for a subscription, right?
Yeah.
Buys a subscription, we fetch the namespace ID and all the information like the billable users and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah.
I guess you reach out to GitLab for that kind of information, right?
Yeah.
But how, like, maybe this is too much into the details, but like how does the request look like? Because we need to be able to route that request to the correct cell as well to get that information.
So at the moment, request usually is like, I don't know, for example, get, v4 internal namespace ID or something like that, and then we just get all the information. So either it should be routed based on that namespace ID path, or if, I mean, in extreme case, we could also add one more layer, like, hey, first select the organization ID if you want to go, and then like which one. So I mean that could, but this also depends upon product. If they are okay to add this one more step in purchase because it's about money, but yeah, we could also do that. I think Christina suggested something like that too, like having an endpoint where if we give the user ID, then we get a bunch of organization that user belongs to, and then from there we can drill down. But the best would be like, yeah, we just give the namespace ID, and then yeah, we get the if it's a top level namespace or not, and once it's top level namespace, the organization that it belongs to, and yeah, if it can buy subscription and all these things that we have already at the moment.
Cool. Okay. Thank you. So I guess I think you've already done this, but correct me if I'm wrong. So if we have a list of all the requests that you send, so we can figure out like how to route these might be useful because I don't think we've looked at path-based routings for this kind of stuff. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong, Tong. But I don't think we've looked at that, how we're gonna route those requests, right?
I think there is a problem with IDs. I think if you send the path, as in like slash GitLab org slash GitLab is okay. If you send IDs, then yeah, I think we need to. I think is that still possible? Because we can maybe the classify service can recognize slash
No,
groups
like
slash ID. I don't know.
so I think what we would probably have to do as part of the routing rules, you would have to decode the ID portion and send it to the classify service, and it would actually allow you to correlate that to the cell. So I would not like to encode the path handling in the global service because this is part of the routing rules. But the classify service gonna be able to decode project path or by ID or by any other data type that you could think of. Because it's gonna have that information.
Oh
So
yeah,
the route,
it's going to recognize that path. Yeah, that's correct.
We have already done with the path with the project path when we did the POC for the Git clone.
Yeah, but I don't think it's in our backlog to support IDs yet, so that's something we probably should add for these specific endpoints.
I think it is in the blueprint.
In the blueprint it is, but not in the backlog to actually add support for IDs.
I think it's not about supporting IDs. It's about supporting handling generic path that you can kind of pull any information out of that and pass it to the classify service in some structured form. This really like the objective because it's not really about the ID per se. It's more like about the generic mechanism to convert the header or a path or something different into like a parameter that you send to the classifier.
Yep, makes sense. Is there anything else we want to discuss around that, or should we move to Parba's comments? Okay, Prabha, I think you're next.
Yeah. So my question was, I saw somewhere that we are going to use Spanner for global service as the data stores. So I was just wondering, is there a place, because I couldn't find it in the blueprints or in our handbooks yet. So I was just wondering, is there any place to understand the reasoning behind choosing Spanner as the data store? And yeah, I was just going through the links which was shared by Kamal, and yeah, I think those have the information which I was looking for. Thanks.
So, Prabha, we are making a good decision to start with the spanner, basically, as our choice of the technology, and really validate like how well it solves our purpose. The very big point for me is like a multi-regional, multi-write database. So technically, when we have cells running in different regions, it's highly available and supported by default in many regions, which is actually a very great perk for something that is like to provide a globally accessible piece of the information. But if for some reason we fail and find a roadblock on the usage of the spanner, the fallback is simply we're gonna get back to the Postgre.
Yeah, I like the idea. So infrastructure is also working on reducing our recovery time and data loss for regional outages, because that's something that we don't have at the moment, and we're working on that right now for the existing GitLab.com infrastructure, right? So our idea is like for new services, we try and not make it harder for infrastructure folks to do that. So like even the router, it's multi-regional, right? It's on the edge. So any regional problems, they are regional resilient, right? And Runway is already, so Runway is the platform we're gonna try and use to deploy the global service, and Runway is supporting multi-region as well as we speak because of the AI gateway from a latency perspective. So it seems the right time to start deploying new services multi-regional on day one. So that's why we're going with Spanner and global service being multi-regional, just because it's also in the critical path, right? Like if global service is down, we can't classify new requests that are not cached and things like that. So having it with a higher availability target than the rest of the infrastructure, that's probably a must at this point. So yeah.
The cloud spanner says they have like the SLA of 99.99999%.
Yeah, it's 5 nines and an SLA that actually will give us money if they exceed. So it's pretty it's pretty good if it's to believe. So it's pretty good so far. That number is pretty nice. That means uptime. If you check that, that means like it's 5 seconds a month of downtime. 5 nines. So it's 26 seconds a month. So yeah, it's pretty good.
It's pretty good. I'm actually now playing with the cloud spanner, and it's like it's really not that awesome from the development point of view. Emulator is very finicky. It's not supporting all functions, so it's not really like bell and wishes. So I'm just kind of curious like how it's gonna actually behave in the production. But the ecosystem, because it's their internal tool running in the cloud for developers, is not really that great.
Yeah,
and like compatibility in the tooling, it also has its own downside. So I would not say that this is like a general purpose database for every case, because it's not. It has very strong vendor locking on what you can use and how you can use it. So in this case, I think it still makes sense because like there's no very long road to switch from one to another. But it's not actually that easy to switch over to the cloud spanner.
Yeah, and like even the schema design needs to be very specific to Cloud Spanner, because Cloud Spanner uses, they call them splits. It's very similar to shards, where they split the data automatically and resize the splits automatically, and each split is replicated into 3 regions. 3 zones and 1 region, and this is why they get this availability. But then the schema needs to reflect that, right? It's the same with sharding. The schema needs to reflect sharding. So, like even IDs, for example, they strongly suggest using UUIDs for primary keys, just so you prevent hot shards or hot splits, they call them, and things like that. So, the schema design is quite interesting overall. But yeah, it's very much vendor locked in. It's not something we can generalize the schema design, at least. So yeah. Any other questions around Spanner or the global service? Okay, I don't see any other questions, so I'm gonna stay in awkward silence for 30 more seconds to see if anyone else has any more questions. If not, we can end the call. Okay. I guess that's been shorter than 30 seconds, but anyways, have a nice day, everyone. Thank you for this. Bye-bye.